I'm Dana Han-Klein here with Andy Serkis and Joe Letteri for War for the Planet of the Apes.
For you, what was the most technically challenging scene to film, and what was the most emotionally challenging scene to film?
Well, as far as filming it, it's when you're outside in those really harsh conditions, you know, in the snow and the rain and everything, just because there's a lot of gear that you have to make sure it continues, you know, to work properly.
I think probably the culmination of the arc of Caesar and the Colonel, the scenes with Woody Harrelson. The scene where at the end he decides whether he's going to take when he finally gets the opportunity to take his life, and the torment that he goes through, whether to free himself of, you know, his grief and how he's going to do that, or whether to be empathetic towards him. That was the most emotionally complex and sort of pivotal scene, I think.
Probably a little more Andy skewed, but what do you admire most about Caesar?
I admire the fact. I mean, he is a truly heroic character in the sense that he is capable of great empathy, and there's very few characters I've played who I can safely say are inspiring in the heroic sense that I played. So that ability to be empathetic, and even in this last movie, when he loses that ability, he does finally regain it.
What do you admire most about Caesar? Because you don't have to spend a lot of time with these characters because they are. You know,
oh yeah, no, absolutely. We spend a lot of time with the characters. Yeah.
Plus Andy's performance.
No, exactly. To me, it's the way that he carries that spark of humanity. I mean, just going back to Rise, where he thinks he's human, you know, and then he realizes that he's not. He's rejected by humans, but he's not quite ape, and he has to find his way. And all the time, he doesn't lose track of that sense of humanity. He is ultimately, you know, as this devastation happens to the human population, he is the character that carries our humanity through into the Planet of the Apes.
What do you think the biggest technological development was between the first film and the last film?
The biggest technological development, we have a piece of software that we use that actually creates the images on screen that we wrote that we didn't fully deploy until the third film. It's called Manuka. It's a rendering. It's called Manuka, and it's the piece of software that allows us to really get the visual realism on screen, the photographic realism.
And for you spent so much time as an actor, but you also now are not venturing into, but you are now sort of spreading your wings as a filmmaker. What have you learned from the Apes films that has influenced you in your filmmaking?
That it's very important to always it begins and ends with the drama, and that no matter how complex technologically, and you are you can be pushed into having to make decisions about things perhaps earlier than you might want to, but to try and Matt Reeves is a prime example. You know, not putting the camera down until you've rehearsed the scenes and take it from the drama that's unfolding in front of you, rather than there's a lot of in this work the tendency to pre-visualize and to try and get ahead of the game by working out what you might shoot, and sometimes that can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse, because you can end up losing the thing that you're already setting out to do, which is to capture the drama.
And Andy, for you, I mean, I assume, you know, the evolution of your performances over the years in terms of like technology catching up to being able to capture what you're doing.
You know, you put on these suits and you go to work, and it's just you forget about all of that. It's not the concern of the actor, nor should it be. I mean, it's different as a filmmaker now. You know, I obviously have a slightly different appreciation for it and how it works. But when you're in the moment as an actor playing the character, that's your job, and that's all you should be thinking about. You're not in any way, shape or form thinking about, I'm going to act in a particular way because of the technology. It just doesn't work like that. You're just in the moment in character.
Would you say that even in the like earliest days of it, you not so much like thinking about it, but just sort of there's a technological hindrance, just not a part of it for you. It's just all about performance.
It's all about performance, and any actor that comes in, I think, kind of, you know, will say, "What's the secret? What's the mystery behind it?" And I always say to them, "There is no mystery. There is no secret. You will find the character, and that's what you do as an actor. You know, I mean, yes, there's a process of becoming the character and understanding how your body will there is translate,
Yeah.
but because there is this part of the rehearsal process is acting in front of a screen, which is like a magic mirror, where you can look, and if you lift your right arm, then I can see Caesar's right arm move in sync, and then you can begin to calibrate your physicality or calibrate the puppet towards what to what you're doing, and you find a sort of happy medium where you're both the puppeteer and the marionette. And then you forget about all that, because you're not looking at yourself when you're filming. Obviously, once you've done that, that is like standing in front of a mirror, first trying on a costume for a character you're playing, and going, okay, well that suit makes me feel a particular way. And then when you go into and you start shooting, you forget about all that, and you're just totally zoned into the performance in the moment.
I'm going to totally switch gears. Mm-hmm. Growing up, who was your favorite fictional hero or heroine?
I remember being really deeply affected by Charles Laughton's Hunchback of Notre Dame. Actually, that was for me, I think, one of the most powerful early memories of a character that truly affected me. And there was obviously a tragedy in that character and a pathos, but there was also strength and a power and an honesty about him.
Vulnerability. I think Quasimodo comes down to vulnerability. Joe, how are you?
I'm trying to think back to all those old films, and what comes to mind would be, in the youngest things I remember are things like King Kong and the Harryhausen films, and films that just had that sort of magical quality of transporting you to another place in time.
Skeletons? You want to be the skeletons growing up?
Absolutely.
Those are my favorite, honestly.
Well, yeah, especially because so much of that was based in myth and legend, and that's just always a fantastic world to try to see that come to life. Yeah.
What do you think is the most rewarding part about the filmmaking process these days? Because it's constantly evolving.
As an actor?
Yes. Or as a filmmaker?
Well, as an actor, it's finding the moment. I mean, it's this delicious kind of quixotic sort of thing which happens where you are not conscious, but you're conscious, and you're in the zone, and something happens, and it's a chemical thing that happens between you and another actor that feels truthful and believable, and that you've become you've brought this thing to bear, and then that it's happened. That's the most beautiful thing about acting for me. And as a filmmaker, there are so many things I love about filmmaking, and it's everything from envisioning a world to helping to elicit performances from other actors.
I'd have to say the character moments as well. It's and I'm looking at it from a different side, but with the same goal in mind. That those moments where the character really has an emotional connection, especially to the story, are the ones that are kind of the most satisfying. But from my perspective, you're looking at a performance like, say, what Andy gives us, and then you're trying to orchestrate the work of a dozen people to try to get that back. You've got animators who have to kind of make sure all the movements that are adjusted properly to match what Andy's doing. You've got to figure out the cinematography. You've got to work out the simulation of the muscles and the bones. You've got to get the light in the eyes just right. So you've got to composite everything into the scene. I could go on and on. There's a lot that goes into making it happen to recreate that idea that in this case Caesar was there and we were filming Caesar. So to me, that's the most satisfying part, when it works in those moments, and then moments after moments for several thousand of them, and then you have a film.
What do you think the most frustrating part of the process is? Because I do think it evolves over the, it used to be either like, oh, we don't see our dailies until however long, and now it's like, oh, it's real-time rendering. But what do you think today is the most frustrating part?
Well, it's not real-time rendering, and there's a lot that you can see in real time, exactly, which can give you a good idea that you're in the right ballpark. But it does take a long time to kind of assimilate all this. And you may think you've got something, really nailed down. We've been working with Andy for years, and can have a pretty good idea of how to, look at what he's doing and try to figure out how to apply that to a character. But it's by no means a simple task still. Like, it really just takes a long time to figure that out. And the faster it gets, the more satisfying it is, because when these things take time, you're just trying to think, I'm missing something here. What am I missing? You know, what's that key piece that's gonna lock all this together?
And do you feel that as a performer, or are you just sort of like, I'm in the moment, I'm acting, I'm...
Yeah, no, I mean, as a performer, you're just concerned with being in the moment and in the scene. But as a filmmaker, I mean, now, you know, making Jungle Book at the moment, and you know, waiting 2 years to see these characters come to life, it drives you nuts. I mean, it drives you nuts because it's, again, it's sort of it's one step forward and then 2 steps back, and then, you know, you find one bit of a character that's working, and then other bits that of the same in the same sequence are kind of like just take you out, and it's just it's you know, it's graft. It is pure graft to get, you know, from everybody to try and reach a level where it starts to becoming emotionally engaging again. So that's
Right. So Apes is very San Francisco based. Unfortunately, we see it destroyed many times.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to destroy a city, what would it be? And why? And why?
I would stick with San Francisco because I like coming back here.
There's nothing to come back to.
Somehow there seems to be.
I know. We're resilient, I'd like to think.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh wow, that's so cruel. What city would you?
Start like that.
What city would you like to destroy? Wow, gosh, that's so hard. I can't think.
There's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them. I think we could do with seeing London be destroyed a bit more. You know.
Okay, but why?
Well, no, because there's so many great landmarks to tear down.
Yes,
you know,
right.
there's some, it's good to see. It might be nice to see some Paul collapse, or you know. Or the Shard go a bit wonky, you know.
In your next film, Joe will do the VFX for it. He promises it. Well, thank you both so much. Congratulations on the film.